A very good evening. It's a brand new month. It's the 1st of October 2016. You're tuned on to the weekend edition of Primetime News. I'm Zola Utskun. Let's start off with a look at our headlines for today.
Bilateral discussions held between Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and New Zealand Prime Minister John Key. Counter Terrorism Law to replace Prevention of Terrorism Act, a revelation by the Prime Minister. Minister of Law and Order explains how Counter Terrorism Law will be implemented. 19th SAARC Summit postponed indefinitely. 2 national records on day 3 of the National Games.
Starting off with our top story this evening, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, who is on an official visit to New Zealand, held bilateral talks with his counterpart John Key today.
The official ceremony to welcome Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe to New Zealand was held at the Government House in Auckland today. The Prime Minister was accorded a traditional Maori welcome, which comprised of a haka. Thereafter, the Prime Minister was welcomed by his New Zealand counterpart. Following a military guard of honour, both Prime Ministers held bilateral discussions. At the outset, the Prime Minister extended President Maithripala Sirisena's greetings to the New Zealand Prime Minister. John Key, speaking at the meeting, said that New Zealand would completely support the development of education, agriculture, fisheries, tourism, aviation, as well as dairy production in Sri Lanka. Discussions also took place on converting the Matala International Airport into an aviation services training centre. It was also agreed to establish a High Commission in both capitals.
Following bilateral discussions, Prime Ministers Wickremesinghe and Key attended a joint media briefing in Auckland today.
And we believe that the ties that we're building together justify the fact that from New Zealand's point of view we would like to move towards opening a High Commission in Colombo. Obviously historically we've had great sporting ties on the cricket pitch and quite a strong interest in rugby in Sri Lanka, but increasingly the economic and diversity of our relationship I think makes tremendous sense for us to have on the ground representation. Along with that we had a good discussion about New Zealand's engagement in Sri Lanka in the agriculture and primary sectors. Prime Minister gave me an update of the situation in Sri Lanka. They had good discussion about what's happening in the north and about some of the constitutional reforms that the country is looking at. We had, as you would expect, a discussion about the region in terms of what's happening most recently obviously in India and Pakistan, and so it was a broad-ranging discussion.
Sri Lanka is looking at tariff reduction on all goods while we are strengthening the local producers, so that's on. This is a secret. I don't know if anyone else knows in the world, but they are going to help us with rugger. So we will become the hub in the Indian Ocean for rugby. At the moment, the Sri Lankan Parliament is seriously considering taking on the New Zealand, the mixed member proportional system. Most of the items we promised we are implementing. As you know, we started the missing persons office. I think by next week the first draft of the Counter Terrorism Law, which will replace the Prevention of Terrorism Act, will be available for discussion.
Sagala Ratnayaka, the Minister of Law and Order and Southern Development, who is accompanying the Prime Minister in New Zealand, spoke exclusively to Newsfirst Gayan Sampath in Auckland.
The Prime Minister made note of the changes to the Prevention of Terrorism Act. How will this take place?
Prevention of Terrorism Act.
What we had was the PTA, or the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Following the conclusion of the war, we have a responsibility to establish a legal system that meets international standards and gives the people that right. We have created the framework for a new Counter-Terrorism Act, and the committee chaired by the Prime Minister was established. The 3 armed forces, the police, the Attorney General's Department and the intellectuals were involved. Around 30 meetings took place. Matters were discussed and debated. The President was also informed of this, and with his approval, the draft was presented to the Cabinet. This will be made public through monitoring committees for discussion.
ඒක ජනතාවගේ ඉදිරියට අපි ගේනවා කතා බහකට සිවිල් සමාජයේ කතා බහට දැන් එතුමා කෙනෙක්ව චෝදනා කරන්න පුළුවන් මේ
One can allege that the amendments to the PTA could be an attempt to ease some of the laws.
සමහර දේවල් ලිහිල් කිරීමක් කියලා මේක කොහොමද අපි පැහැදිලි කරගන්නේ
අපි සූදානම් වෙන්න ඕනේ.
We need to be prepared to face not only domestic terrorism but also international terrorism. This will not ease any act. At times, the international community might not be in favor of this 100%.
Is there any specific time period to approve this and enforce it?
We hope to complete the process through the monitoring committee within a month after obtaining cabinet approval. We will not be able to do this before the budget. We hope to take this up as the first draft bill in Parliament next year.
On to a headline-making story this evening. The Pakistani Ministry of Foreign Affairs has announced that the 19th SAARC summit, which was to be held in Islamabad in November, has been postponed indefinitely.
Issuing a media release, Pakistan states that it deplores India's decision to impede the SAARC process by not attending the 19th SAARC summit. According to Pakistan, the spirit of the SAARC Charter is violated when a member state casts a shadow of its bilateral problems on the multilateral forum for regional cooperation. The release adds that Pakistan remains committed to hosting the 19th SAARC summit in Islamabad and that a new set of dates for the summit will be announced soon through the current chair of SAARC, Nepal. Pakistan was prompted to postpone the summit after India announced that it would not attend the summit. India's decision was followed by statements from Bhutan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan that announced they would not be attending the summit. Earlier last evening, Sri Lanka announced that the prevailing environment in the region is not conducive for holding the 19th SAARC summit.
Such a tense security situation could have been in a way discussed more deeply, widely in a regional forum like SAARC. What is at stake is not just the security of India and Pakistan. If there is a tension, if there is a conflict between India and Pakistan, what is at stake is the whole regional security. So by avoiding or by losing the opportunity to voice each country's opinion and of course concerns regarding this within a summit, which would have been more productive, I feel, if they had gone through with it, rather than boycotting or withdrawing from the summit, which is creating a concern. I feel we as a nation, as Sri Lanka and all the countries in the region lost the opportunity to have a better engagement, have a better negotiation and discussion, and probably find a better solution to the current standoff between India and Pakistan.
The Forbes website has published an article on Sri Lanka under the headline, "Sri Lanka's debt crisis is so bad, the government doesn't even know how much it owes." The article has been published by Wade Shepherd, a contributor to the Forbes website and author on emerging markets.
The article says that according to official estimates, Sri Lanka currently owes $64.9 billion, 8 billion of which is owned by China. It adds that the country's debt to GDP currently stands at around 75%, while 95.4% of all government revenue is currently going towards debt repayment. The activities carried out by the previous government are also highlighted in the article, which states that the previous government utilized state-owned enterprises to take out additional loans on its behalf. Quoting Finance Ministry sources, the article reads that the full extent of this extracurricular lending seems unknown. Current estimates peg it at a minimum of $9.5 billion. The article published on the Forbes website further reads that much of Sri Lanka's pile-up debt was accumulated in the process of initiating an entire buffet of large-scale and extremely expensive infrastructure projects under the direction of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. It says that between 2009 and 2014, Sri Lanka's total government debt tripled and external debt doubled as the country engaged in a number of costly undertakings, such as attempting to build a new multi-billion-dollar city, which includes the world's emptiest international airport, constructing one of the most expensive highways ever made, as well as other pricey endeavors, such as spending $42 million just to remove a rock from the Colombo harbor. The article shows statistics to say that this year alone, $4.5 billion is owed to foreign lenders, and next year a further $4 billion is owed.
A workshop conducted by Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy, on development challenges in Sri Lanka was held last evening. The workshop was organized by the Institute of Certified Management Accountants, Sri Lanka.
Lots of people say that, that we're being dictated to by the IMF and all kinds of things. But I constantly ask myself the question, okay, let's assume there was no IMF in this world. What do we need to do? And in my view, fiscal consolidation is something we have to do, whether there's an IMF or no IMF or anything else. In your household, if you're living beyond your means, you're borrowing for your recurrent expenditure, and you have now got into the hands of the moneylender who is squeezing your neck, you have to adjust. In my view, what the IMF does do, the money it gives is not very much. But the kind of certification, the good housekeeping seal you get from the IMF allows you to catalyze money, which helps to reduce the pain of the adjustment.
The governor also spoke of the benchmark Sri Lanka should achieve.
The other thing is, we keep benchmarking ourselves with South Asia. If I just can have an aside, that really upsets me. We were second to Japan on just about any indicator in Asia. To say that we are the best in South Asia is a bit like, I don't know how many of you follow the English Premier League in football. It's a bit like saying you're top of the 4th division. Really, we need to benchmark ourselves against the Malaysias, the Thailands, not against South Asia.
Minister of Justice and Buddha Sasana Vijayadas Rajapaksa called on the Mahanayaka of the Malwatha chapter, the most venerable Tibbatuave Sri Sumangala Thero.
There is only one issue. Yesterday I spoke with the other Mahanayakas. They too called for the election on the Diyavarana Nilame.
If the previous constitutions on the matter remained, it would be better.
We too echoed the same sentiments. There are very important amendments to this bill.
If you seek the consent of all, you will never be able to achieve this.
One issue has been raised with amending the Vihara Devalagam Act. There was concern over who had the power to cast a vote from certain acts and sects after the post of the Diyavarana Nilame. The discussions are simply dragging on because of requests made by Mahanayakas of other sects on the power to vote. The Mahasangha led by the Mahanayaka of the Malwathu chapter informed us today that if there are any objections over the vote to elect a Diyavarana Nilame, the existing method needs to be continued over this process. We hope to resolve these matters and pass the act.
You're watching the weekend edition of Primetime News. Here's what's coming up later on in the news tonight. The Gammadha 100 Days initiative, which is launched for the people, has been able to transcend mere words and turn our promises into concrete actions. Today, a village that was disregarded by officials saying there was no water received the blessings of water through the Gammadha 100 Days initiative.
The Gammadha 100-Day Initiative. With the people, for the people.
For years, the 30 families residing in the rural village of Ilukapatana have had to spend a majority of their time in search of clean water sources. As the village itself was perched on top of a rock, they had no way of collecting even the rainwater that fell from the heavens.
We have been looking for water here for days. The only thing they said was that there are no fissures here, so water cannot be obtained.
Even though various tests stated that groundwater could not be found in the Ilukapatana village, the Newsfirst Gammadha 100 Days initiative took up the challenge of providing water for these battered residents just 4 days ago. Meanwhile, over in the Medawachi area, yet another successful project of the Gum at the 100 Days initiative was vested in the public. The area residents of Isin Bassagala, who struggled for 12 years without access to a proper preschool for their children, was vested with better facilities at the Udara preschool in Isin Bassagala. A renovated building as well as sanitary facilities were provided to the children of Isin Bassagala on World Children's Day. Group Director of the Capital Maharaj Organisation, Needra Veerasinghe, was also present at the occasion.
Children add colour to our world. They will grow up to become the next generation of leaders. We need to ensure that we provide them with the strength and the knowledge to help them overcome the challenges of the future. Let us take the lead in creating a better tomorrow for our children. Thank you for creating the opportunity for me to do this meritorious deed. Now it is up to the children to study well, get a good job. This is what we would like to see.
When we engage in activities such as this, we begin to think if we have accomplished something through our lives while living in Colombo. However, such activities help us to prove and assure ourselves that the youth have the capability to take up leadership.
Books and educational equipment were also donated to the students in the area in line with the Gum at the 100 Days initiative. A function was also held to plant several saplings in the premises of the nursery. The Gum at the Savia branch of Isin Bassagala was also established today.
40 years ago, I wrote an essay in school titled Beautiful Sri Lanka. In my conclusion, I wrote that Sri Lanka is a developing country. My third child is also writing that Sri Lanka is a developing country today. An organization has been created which can speak out to the entire world about our development.
The Gammadda 100-day initiative. With the people, for the people.
At a time when there is much discussion on the well-being and safety of children, yesterday 2 children died after falling into a pit in the Udangaon area in Kochikade, Negombo.
Today many embrace their children with love to celebrate World Children's Day. However, these parents have to endure the pain of losing their children. These children, who spent most of their time playing, met an untimely death when they slipped away from their parents' attention.
මොකුත් බැනර් මොකුත් දාලා නැහැ ළමයින්ට පොඩි ළමයි ගිහිල්ලා ඒකෙන් සෙල්ලම් කරන්න එපා.
There is a court case with regard to this pit. We have requested for all pits that were dug to mine for sand be closed. They said that in order to fill this pit, they would have to destroy the Samanala mountain. The CEA had also made note that this cannot be closed. If they dig a pit, they must also close it. The PNs who made those statements must be held accountable. The children who met this untimely death were grade 8 students from Toppua and Udangaon. On most occasions, the child grows up alone. The child goes to school alone, and he is on his own after coming back from school. Both parents are working.
International Children's Day was celebrated today under the theme, "Let us join hands to protect the world of children." To celebrate International Children's Day, the MTV MBC network organized a series of events throughout the day at the Vihara Mahadevi Park. Group directors and executives of the Capital Maharaj Organisation Limited graced the inauguration of the event.
Today is Children's Day, and to ensure that they are able to enjoy themselves, MTV, MBC, Yes FM, Shakti FM, YFM and Newsfirst came together to hold this event. The reason is because the Capital Maharaj Organisation is an institution that wants to do good for the people and wants the country to move forward.
වැඩ කරන කට්ටියක් ඉන්නවා
There are those who work and there are those who want to score points. My father always told me to join the people who work. Today, children from far corners of the country have come to attend this event. I always want to do programs that would create a better tomorrow for the future citizens of the country.
Special programs for children were also organized at the Sirasa FM zone. The forum and concert of the children from the Samanila Sirasa clubs across the island caught the attention of all those present. Sirasa TV and Sirasa FM also awarded many gifts to the children who visited the Sattu Uyana at the Vihara Mahadevi Park in Colombo. A special area for educating children on arts and drama took place at the Sirasa TV zone today. Toy planes, musical acts, magic shows, children's programs and many other events added more fun and color to the event. The children were also given the opportunity to have fun with the Muppet of Chuti TV and TV personalities. The foundation stone for the new technology laboratory at the Kudabola Nathanya Singh Central College was held today.
It was under the auspices of Minister of Housing and Construction that the foundation stone was laid for the new laboratory, which will be built at a cost of 25.3 million rupees.
All these children are watching the conduct of the parents. They form their own personalities by observing you. Just as the government, the parents too have a responsibility to protect their children. I would like to make a request from the parents. When you are walking towards the bar in the town, think about your children and then decide whether you should go or not. If anyone is getting involved in drug dealings, think about your children and the next generation and then decide.
The birth of a civilization does not happen overnight. It is born through the transformation taking place over the sands of time. In order to prove that civilizations did exist thousands of years ago, Newsfirst went high and low on the mountains of Sri Lanka in search of evidence buried under the soil through time. The following is yet another report on the quest for more historic evidence.
It was over a year ago Newsfirst commenced an extensive research to understand the life of our prehistoric ancestors who are believed to have gone through many transitions with time. Our previous quest led us to sites in Rasagala in Balangoda, Nunugalge in Ilukkumbura, as well as a cave in Diyavinna. This research is carried out by a group of archaeologists led by the renowned Professor Raj Somadeva with the objective of unraveling the transition from hunter-gatherer to farmer. The expedition ranged from Nunugalge in the wet zone of Balangoda to Diyavinna in the dry zone. While remains of prehistoric testations were discovered in Diyavinna, there were a very low number of testation remains in Nunugalge. It is believed that as both locations are found on a single contour, the transition of the hunter-gatherer may have taken place somewhere in between. We decided to stop our descent from Balangoda and ascend again on the mountain to search for the point of transition or any other clue. Several months ago, Newsfirst began a quest in search of how civilizations were established in Sri Lanka. We went in search of the hunter-gatherer. How did they evolve? And what did they do to evolve? We went in search of all these answers. And today, we are here back again in Ilukkumbura, but at a different place. This is Maddakanda. And according to the information that we have, above over there is a cave with more clues into Sri Lanka's prehistoric life and how civilizations were established. Let's get going. 360 meters above sea level, Alugalge is a much smaller cave compared to the other caves visited by us. When we reached the location, Professor Raj Somadeva and his team had already made some important discoveries at the dig site. The excavation was done without any hindrance as the premises had not been disturbed by the clergy or treasure hunters.
The most important artifacts we found in this cave, a couple of imported beads together with shark tooths. We found 3 shark tooths here. One they processed as a pendant with a perforation. The imported beads signifies that they initiated a basic bartering system with the people who inhabited in the valley areas. So the presence of shark tooths signifies their presence, their voyage towards the sea. Actually, the presence of these 2 type of artifacts, interactive sphere between the prehistoric hunter-gatherers and the people who inhabited in the valley areas.
The discovery at this site further affirmed the theory of the researchers that the hunter-gatherer indeed went through a period of transition. Professor Raj Somodeva believes that the site may hold evidence of life from over 3,500 years ago. Many artifacts are being found at this excavation site in Alugalge. What are they and what are they used for? We will have the details tomorrow. With Laknuwan Varnakula Surya and Randika Hettiarachchi, I'm Zulfiq Farzan for News First.
A number of wildfires were reported from various locations around the country. The majority of these fires were reported from the Badulla district.
Our correspondents reported that 3 large-scale fires were reported last week in the Alla and surrounding areas. A few days ago, this area was lush with greenery. However, today it looks like a barren land as a result of wildfires. The Disaster Management Center notes that several forest reserves in the Badulla district have been affected by these wildfires.
Humankind has not woven the web of life. We are but one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together. All things connect. Chief Seattle.
The girls' finals of the Inter-School Shakespeare Drama Competition, commonly known as Shakes, presented by the Colombo YMCA and the Rotary Club of Colombo North, was held last evening.
St. Lawrence's Convent Colombo, Newsted Girls College Nigambo, Visakha Vidyalaya and Devi Balika were the front-runners for the girls. An excerpt from Romeo and Juliet, a tragedy about 2 young star-crossed lovers whose deaths ultimately reconciled their feuding families, was portrayed by the students of St. Lawrence's Convent. The students of Devi Balika brought to life an act from As You Like It. An act from the play Twelfth Night, one of Shakespeare's early comedies, was portrayed by the students of Newsted Girls College, Nigambo, while the students from Visakha opted once again from the tragedy Romeo and Juliet. Visakha Vidyalaya was adjudged champions of the girls' finals of the Inter-School Shakespeare Drama Competition.
Well, 2 national records were broken on day 2 of the 42nd National Sports Festival in Jaffna. You can catch the complete story of this on our website, www.Newsfirst.lk. On that note, we wrap up this edition. Thank you very much for stopping by. For the News team, I'm Joel Outspoon. Take care. Good night.